Институт цифрового образования – это передовое, современное учебное подразделение Московского городского. У нас более 20 образовательных программ бакалавриата и магистратуры по подготовке кадров для цифровой экономики. В институте готовят первоклассных специалистов по направлениям информационные системы и технологии, педагогическое образование, бизнес-информатика и прикладная информатика. В лаборатории робототехники студенты проектируют и собирают роботов, учатся программировать и работать с электронными компонентами, знакомятся с системами автоматического управления, готовятся к соревнованиям и просто реализуют свои задумки на программируемых конструкторах.
Вот, к примеру, один из знатоков электроники. На нем можно собрать счетчик. Мы используем уже имеющуюся макетную плату, на которой есть несколько программ. Здесь мы, например, использовали фотоэлемент. Когда мы его закрываем, у нас счетчик меняет цифры.
На лекциях мы изучаем различные мехатронные устройства, а на практических занятиях знакомимся с принципами их работы. В частности, здесь представлен конструктор Фишер-Техник, из которого можно собрать модель трактора, использующую пневматические приводы. Благодаря пневматическим приводам можно поднимать предметы. Благодаря пневматическим приводам можно поднимать предметы. И опускать.
Hello, this is Boris. Carlos, if you can hear me, can you please press start broadcasting just to check the channel of communication.
Okay, it's in Russian.
Yeah, I think you can switch the interface to English. So if you press those three dots in the top right corner and the big settings, okay. You can switch to English.
Yes, I have it now.
All right, it looks like everything is working. We will start the webinar in 10 minutes. I will give a short introduction. After that, I'll give the floor to you. And so you will be welcome to give the presentation. Okay?
Why is a video showing here? Is this normal?
It's just a standard introduction. When we wait for the webinar, it usually shows up. So it is not connected to your lecture.
Okay.
All right, so if everything is fine, we will start in 10 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Good. Have you received my slides?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to upload them in the system.
Okay, good. Excellent.
All right, perfect.
Институт цифрового образования – это передовое, современное учебное подразделение Московского городского. У нас более 20 образовательных программ бакалавриата и магистратуры по подготовке кадров для цифровой экономики. В институте готовят первоклассных специалистов по направлениям информационные системы и технологии, педагогическое образование, бизнес-информатика и прикладная информатика. В лаборатории робототехники студенты проектируют и собирают роботов, учатся программировать и работать с электронными компонентами, знакомятся с системами автоматического управления, готовятся к соревнованиям и просто реализуют свои задумки на программируемых конструкторах.
Вот, к примеру, один из знатоков электроники. На нем можно собрать счетчик. Мы используем уже имеющуюся макетную плату, на которой есть несколько программ. Здесь мы, например, использовали фотоэлемент. Когда мы его закрываем, у нас счетчик меняет цифры.
На лекциях мы изучаем различные мехатронные устройства, а на практических занятиях знакомимся с принципами их работы. В частности, здесь представлен конструктор Фишер-Техник, из которого можно собрать модель трактора, использующую пневматические приводы. Благодаря пневматическим приводам можно поднимать предметы и опускать. Также в нашей лаборатории представлены конструкторы VEX. Здесь вы можете видеть VEX CDR и VEX IQ. Наиболее распространен VEX IQ. Его активно используют в московских школах для подготовки к соревнованиям WorldSkills.
В рамках проекта «Техносфера» в Институте цифрового образования появились современные лаборатории инженерного класса, лаборатория механики и молекулярной физики, электричества и магнетизма, оптики и квантовой физики. Большое количество современных устройств для проведения экспериментов и специализированное программное обеспечение доступны для будущих преподавателей инженерных классов в московских школах и всех, кто заинтересован в экспериментальном обучении.
Я шла как раз за углубленным изучением физики и математики, и в первом семестре я убедилась, что это именно тот вуз, который мне был нужен.
Данная лаборатория дает нам возможность не только на теории изучить физику, но и на практике.
Особой гордостью является цифровая лаборатория профильного уровня Relab. Ее программно-аппаратный комплекс составляют планшетный компьютер, мультидатчики и специализированное программное обеспечение. Все это помогает учащимся более точно регистрировать и обрабатывать экспериментальные данные по широкому спектру физических исследований. Учебно-лабораторный комплекс по схемотехнике помогает студентам разобраться в электрических схемах путем построения комбинационных логических и интерфейсных микропроцессорных схем.
У нас есть знаток с названием «Альтернативные источники энергии». Здесь вы можете увидеть ручной генератор и вольтметр. Если мы переключим его, у нас начнет увеличиваться напряжение в сети. Наиболее сложный конструктор из имеющихся конструкторов знатоков – это знаток Arduino Basic. Здесь мы можем использовать элементы программирования. Как вы можете видеть, у нас присутствует маленькая Arduino Nano с распайкой на различные выходы. Включая этот конструктор, мы закачиваем на него различные программы, которые уже есть на флешке, входящие в набор. И вот, к примеру, мы собрали схему, где с изменением тона звука меняется цвет в RGB датчике.
С помощью генератора Ван де Графа можно в действительности смоделировать процессы, происходящие при ударе молний, сымитировать грозовые разряды и погрузиться в изучение увлекательной электростатики.
С помощью движения у нас накапливается в шаре электрический заряд, то есть мы зарядили и пробуем разрядить. Получается электрические разряды.
Занимательными объектами лаборатории оптики и атомной физики являются комплект для демонстрации и изучения атомной физики, который позволяет увидеть процессы спускания электронов и экспериментальным способом определять их удельный разряд.
Так, сейчас мы выставили напряжение, должны пронаблюдать, как пучок электронов, вот он уже появляется здесь, исходящий, исходит из трубки. Он в виде спирали.
Расширенный лабораторный набор по оптике, атомный микроскоп, телескоп, оптические наборы позволят погрузиться в мир оптических явлений, изучать свойства света и распространение электромагнитных волн видимого, инфракрасного и ультрафиолетового диапазонов спектра.
Перед нами стоит прибор, который называется набор спектральных трубок. Здесь у нас колбочка с гелием, вот эта колбочка с аргоном, еще у нас есть колбочка с неоном. И все они светятся по-разному, когда установка пропускает через них электрический ток. Давайте мы вам это продемонстрируем.
Уважаемые коллеги, мы начинаем сегодняшний вебинар, и нас ждет сегодня очень интересное событие, потому что у нас сегодня очень замечательный и известный гость. Это профессор и проректор по цифровизации образования Мадридского университета Карлоса III, Карлос Дельгадо Клоос. Это очень хороший друг нашего университета, один из ведущих специалистов в Европе по вопросам цифровизации, учебной аналитики, автор большого количества книг, статей, организатор и участник большого количества международных проектов в области цифровизации. Вот мы очень рады, что он принял наше приглашение принять участие в серии вебинаров с ведущими европейскими учеными, которые у нас сейчас проходят на базе Института цифрового образования. Меня зовут Борис Ермаков, я являюсь сотрудником Института цифрового образования, я буду модератором сегодняшней встречи. Давайте договоримся о том, как мы сегодня с вами будем общаться. Карлос будет рассказывать свою презентацию на английском языке, поэтому воспримите это как такой вызов. Английский язык – это язык, на котором сейчас происходит основная масса международного общения в области науки и исследований, так что это то, с чем нам придется сталкиваться все чаще и чаще, поэтому слушаем по-английски, стараемся понять и активно участвуем в сегодняшней встрече. У нас есть функционал нашей платформы, который позволит нам общаться и задавать вопросы. Вот у нас есть такая вкладочка с чатом, там можно приветствовать собравшихся, написать, откуда вы, можете даже написать, какая у вас сейчас погода. Вот в Москве сейчас очень, очень тепло, так что мы будем рады узнать то, какие вы регионы, страны представляете, и мы очень, очень рады всем вам. Кроме этого, у нас есть такая вкладочка, которая называется «Вопросы». В этой вкладочке я призываю вас задавать вопросы по существу, то есть те, на которые вы хотели бы получить ответы от нашего ведущего. Мы договорились, что вопросы можно писать или по-английски, или по-русски. Если вы напишите их по-русски, мы для Карлоса их переведем, для того, чтобы он на них мог ответить с максимальной эффективностью, скажем так. Вот, вижу, что Наталья пишет: добрый день. Да, мы всем очень рады, что вы все сегодня с нами и участвуете в сегодняшней беседе. Наш вебинар будет длиться примерно 1 час. Сначала Карлос сделает свое выступление, после этого мы будем обмениваться вопросами. Но мы еще договорились, что он по ходу своей презентации будет делать небольшие паузы для того, чтобы можно было задать какие-то уточняющие вопросы. То есть, если вы чувствуете, что что-то осталось не совсем понятно, не откладывайте это дело в долгий ящик. В разделе «Вопросы» задавайте ваш вопрос, и мы обязательно постараемся попросить Карлоса на этот вопрос ответить. Ну что ж, на этом я передаю слово Карлосу. Dear Carlos, so you're welcome to start your presentation. You can press the video button. Yes, I'm sure your microphone is working. So I'm giving the floor to you. You are welcome. And we are all eager to listen to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Boris. I didn't understand the introduction. It's a pleasure in any case to be with you here, even if it's online. Of course, it's much nicer when I was there in Moscow, invited by you, I think 1.5 years ago. Unfortunately, this is not possible right now, so it's a pleasure to interact with you here. The title of my talk is Learning and Unlearning in the Digital Age, because the learning, the education has changed. It has to be differently. But when learning new things, we have also sometimes to forget something. We must not insist in doing the things the same way as we did before. And I think this illustration, this photo you can see there with a car, with a horse, illustrates the idea very well. If there's a motor car, maybe this is not the right way of driving the car. Okay, let me start by summarizing the presentation. It will be in 3 parts. I will talk about cloud education, I will talk about liquid education, and I will talk about active education. And I will start with a real anecdote that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. We were showing some professors the new design we have for the lecture halls with new technologies, with interactive monitors, with cameras, with microphones, etc., to be able to teach in a hybrid way with students online and students on site. And she told me, she was a mathematics teacher. She told me, the digital board is not good for me, and it's not even good for any math or physics professor, because we need a lot of space. We need to write some formulas here, some formulas there, and maybe later on we have to refer back to another formula. So the digital board, the interactive monitor, is too small. It's not good for me. Of course, the traditional chalkboard, the blackboard, has some advantages. There's lots of space. It's easy to use with the chalk. You can use your own handwriting. It's flexible. You can draw, you can write, etc. Many advantages. Why move forward? This is what exactly what this professor was telling me. What about the interactive monitor, which allow you to have a digital board? Of course, it has a limited space, but it has lots of pages. You can move forward and backwards to earlier pages. Or in some applications, it has a limitless canvas. You can move up and down wherever. And it has more advantages. It's storable, recordable to share, and shareable with others. But this would be just to look at the surface. There are many more advantages to the digital board. First, you can take advantage of the intelligence that is behind and use smart writing. I will show you in a minute. Secondly, you can include also other resources like multimedia or image resources. It's rich. And it's connected and therefore collaborative. You can find or meet others in this place on the cloud. Let me go through these 3 aspects. It is smart in the sense that if you write, maybe it's not so interesting, you can press a button in some versions, and then it gets magically updated to what you wanted to say with letters. So it's smart writing. Okay, you can even draw shapes perfectly. It's not just the handwriting, not just the text, but also images and figures. You draw them like this star here, and then pop, automatically it's a perfect star. Or you can have maybe draw some animal, okay, 4 legs, a head, and then you get some suggestions. Okay, did you mean a cow or did you mean a dog? Do you like this dog? Okay, or maybe some other issues. For instance, I will draw a boat, okay, plop, and that's it. This auto draw, this intelligence that you can take advantage of is of great advantage. Or as a mathematics professor, you want to draw, you want to explain the line integral, the integral along a line, okay? You draw very nicely as a mathematician, you draw very well, but, well, it's still static. You cannot express yourself very well, or you have to draw and redraw, and it takes a lot of time. Maybe it's easier to include at this point, just for this point. Then you continue with your equations to illustrate in a much better way what a line integral is. So it's like this, and then this means that you have a curve, and you mean the area below this curve, and you stretch this curve, and then you get the integral you wanted to have. And here's the formula. Okay, this is much richer terrain than the blackboard. By the way, I invite you, I like very much just this YouTube channel, 3 Blue, 1 Brown, where the author explains that just with a number of rotating arrows, you can draw anything. Oh, how magic. Yes, you can see how with these rotating arrows, you can draw, for instance, this symbol, this musical symbol. Okay, this is the basics for the Fourier transform. Oh, how interesting. In just the easy illustration, I have shown a very complex concept. And the third, it's connected. You can collaborate with the students with themselves in the cloud. They can meet in the cloud. And there are a number of boards, I will mention just a few, but there are so many that allow you to have this collaborative working on the digital board. This is the Google Jamboard, which you know, it exists also as a physical device, but I'm referring to the digital device, to the software, to the service by Google, and there are many others. Microsoft, Miro, I like very much Miro. It's very, very powerful. You have a lot of templates. You can have you can have frames. You can do a lot of things there for collaborating on the cloud with the board. Mural, Padlet of different kinds. You just have post-its, etc. But it's a very nice way to collaborate. And here are the symbols, the icons of some of the many. There are many more digital boards and similar things that exists for you to use. Okay, very interesting. So instead of just having the blackboard or the chalkboard to point and to write, now you have an additional meeting space where even if your students are in the classroom, you can meet and collaborate and talk to them and have them collaborate with themselves. Very interesting. So even this is an image of our master's classes. No, even if we have face-to-face students and remote students who are looking at the same, because here it's projected through the projector and the students at home through the computer, but even the students in class can interact and can see it at their own devices because it's everywhere, it's anywhere. This is something the Blackboard cannot compete with. And also for engagement, this engagement apps is useful for the students in class and remote students. Yeah, and there are many engagement apps. I will not mention them: Kahoot, Socrative, Quizalize Quizzes, WooClub, Socrative, etc., Quizlet, Poll Everywhere, etc. So interesting. From the board to the digital boards, we have to learn, of course, all the functionality and the affordances of the digital board, but we have to unlearn how to use the chalkboard. We should not try to use it the same way as we did before, where you have a lot of space, like this math professor told me. You have to learn how to use the board and the functionality and the pedagogical uses, as well as to unlearn the old device. This is the first part of my presentation. Are there any questions at this point?
Yes, Carlos, if you don't mind, let me ask a couple of questions.
Yes.
The first question is, how affordable those technologies? For example, if you take Spanish secondary school teachers, how many of them can afford to use these technologies, and how many of them actually use them? So
there are several boards, some are for payment and some are open source, free to use. Let me mention one, for instance, Open Board. Let me go to the, I did not go into the detail here, but there are several. For instance, a web whiteboard. This is a free to use. Open Board, it's not mentioned here with letters. Open Board is a software you can install for Windows, for Mac, for Linux, which you can use for free. So there are several which are free. Others, if you have a Google or Microsoft license in general, you can use it. And others are for payment. Or what I mentioned before, for instance, Miro. is for payment, but you have 3 boards free. You can use 3, and if it's over, you can erase and use again. You have always 3 free. No? So, I mean, there are some which are freemium, some which are totally free. I have a long list. I did not want to go into all the details. I just want to mention this meeting in the cloud, how important it is.
Okay, thank you very much. It's clear. By the way, I noticed that one of our participants greets you in Spanish. We have a message saying Buenas tardes, estimado profesor.
Buenas tardes.
So it looks like our participants are attentive and listening well. So we can move to the next section of your presentation, and hopefully there will be more questions.
Okay, so let's move. Okay. So now you understood. It's either physical or digital. And if I go to digital, I have to forget about the physical. No. This is not what I wanted to say. It's not just either or. It's not just either traditional university, face-to-face, or open university. No. It's not blended or hybrid education. Either I do this, now tomorrow I do that. No. It's much more subtle. It's much more complicated. By the way, do you understand what is blended and what is hybrid? What is mixed mode and what is bimodal? What is the difference? Do we all understand the same? I think we have also a problem of terminology. But what I want to stress right now is not this or that. No, I want to introduce a new topic, what has been used by other people as well, but not so many. Something like liquid education, where you mixed, the red is the online and the blue is the on-site, in person. You mix it in very complicated and in intelligent ways. I think this is the next challenge, how to mix the two, the physical and the digital, appropriately. I like very much Phil Libin. Phil Libin is the CEO of a company which is called This is how you write it. It's a video conferencing software. He was born in St. Petersburg, when it was Leningrad maybe, and when he was 8 years old, he went to the United States. And he recently, he had several companies, and the last one is I recommend very much. If you go to .app, it's very interesting. I will show a few slides. And he talks about remixing reality. He talks about the IRL plus, better than in real life, where you mix in intelligent ways the real life, the physical, with the digital. He talks also about the DJification of the world, like a DJ that uses something which is recorded, but he puts it into life in very interesting ways, changing music, going back and forwards, stopping here and doing there. So something which is online, digital, he brings into life. And I think this is a very interesting concept, combining the digital with the real in an interesting way. For instance, maybe you know the software called Edpuzzle. It allows you to remix videos. A couple of weeks ago, I had a presentation. It was an online course, but it could have been in physical, in the classroom. It doesn't matter. I wanted to show how to give presentations, and I put a video. I showed a video. But showing a video maybe is not giving it your touch. So Edpuzzle allows you to put at specific points of this video stops for reflection, for writing down something, for responding to a quiz. What do you think is A, B, or C? Maybe just was said as before. So you remix an existing content and you give it your touch and make it yours and introduce your questions into specific times of it. What is this? Is this online? Is this face-to-face? What is it? Maybe I was in class with the students there. It was not the case, but maybe it was there. But I had all students looking at the videos, answering all questions, and I could see it in the dashboard, what they were answering, and could make them participate on what I wanted them to see. This combination, this remixing is very interesting. And it's one example of how you may do DJ-ify your teaching. There, even I want to mention also Common Sense. Common Sense is a website which shows, for instance, among other things, how to teach with videos. And they have some recommendations, have the students take notes in real time when they see the video, maybe pause and then ask questions, and maybe have them view it again and annotate or assign projects on how to combine this in different ways. No? Very interesting. So there are things which are in the classroom, but in the classroom you do online things. For instance, a teacher introduces a topic, and then the students view the video, let's say in YouTube. Then while doing this, they collaborate on the back channel, they comment, etc. Then the teacher asks questions again, and then the students can annotate or remix the video, like with Media Breaker or with Edpuzzle, which I just showed you. So this interesting combination, this is the richness this allows us. It's not just, is this better than that? No, 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 it's not about better. It's about combining in the most intelligent way. And this, which is partly on-site and partly online, of course, you can do online also, live, synchronously, and using content which is recorded. Okay, for instance, I don't know whether you know TikTok. I'm not so young as to have TikTok, but I have made an account now in TikTok. But they have these things called Tick-Tock Duets. What is a Tick-Tock Duet? So somebody records a video with a recorded video. And many educational things happen then, no? For instance, this Tick Duets for dancing, no? Somebody dances, and then you can record your video with the dancer, but the dancer has made some stops, so they does something before, and then you repeat it, and now it's your turn to repeat it, and then we do it together. These people don't know each other. They're not even together in the same place in any moment, but one is teaching another one to dance or to sing, the interesting things, or there are these popcorn duets where one word each other for these two people which are totally unrelated. And there are many interesting things like the Tick-Tock duet chain. I will not show it to you. I have here the YouTube video where you see how starting with a video, another video is added, and then another one, another one, and you combine many interesting things. So this combination of, while I'm recording live, I'm using something which comes from before, and what I've done is also used by anyone else. This is a very interesting proposal of remixing reality. Or in some conferences, I have been in Spain in a conference a few weeks ago, and I will be another one in Chile in a few weeks, where the live is simulated. It was recorded before, and in this Chile conference, so I will record the video, and then I will be with the same shirt, with the same tie, with the same hair, live at the end for questions. So what is this? Is this real life? Is this recorded? It's a mixture which is combined in a very interesting way. But then you are sure that it will not fail because the recording is already there. And if I have now computer problems, well, it doesn't matter because everything has happened before. So, and there are many services that help you in this simulated life. It's not live, it's simulated. Okay. So, okay, good. Second part, liquid education. It is not just digital or physical. It is something which is in between. And we have to unlearn this separation of concerns and try to mix concepts in many ways. And I'm sure that in the future, there will come up many other interesting ways of mixing the physical entities. So this is the second part, and I will stop here for maybe another question or so.
Yeah, Carlos, let me ask you a question. Several years ago, we came across a concept called augmented reality, that is added reality. So is liquid reality or liquid education the next step in this direction? and what new concepts are brought with the concept of liquid education?
I think the imagination is the limit, and we are just seeing the beginning. Augmented reality is a good example, and where you mix the digital with the physical world in a particular space. No, this is just one space. You mix the two things, the two worlds, but you can mix them, as we can see, also in time or in combination. So I think we have not unlearned enough in order to really understand the power that lies behind in this remixing the two realities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And now it's very clear. I think we can go on and listen to the next section. Thank you.
Next section. Okay. And then the third part is from lecturing to active learning. Is lecturing the way to teach in the future? It is what is needed. We have, during the lockdown, during pandemic, been teaching, we continued teaching, everything continued successfully. The teacher was instead of the class, was behind the computer. And on the other side, the student was attentive, looking at the videos, taking notes, understanding, etc. Well, maybe this is in the imagination of the professor. Maybe it was not like this. Maybe it was like that. Maybe there was a lot of distractions, or maybe the friend was saying, okay, shall we meet online tomorrow? Maybe you are a bit hungry and you go to the kitchen and something, and the professor continues teaching. Maybe it was not so good, or maybe if it was even worse, if nobody was on the other side. I don't know whether anybody is on the other side right now, but I'm sure there is. So what is really reality? Because if you are disconnected from the space, you are more able to be distracted. What is the key for the education of the future? Be it online, on-site, hybrid, mixed, bimodal, in any way. The key is active learning. The student should not be passive listening to a lecture. They should be active doing something, because it's the only way to really be engaged and to understand and to see the problems and to try to solve them. So active learning is the education of the future. And even active learning translates very well from face-to-face to online, because you can continue doing it. I was teaching last year a course which was interrupted in March due to the pandemic. Well, we continued doing the same because it was a very project-based class. It was a project-based course, and they continued, and we were meeting online, but they were the actors, not the professors. So active teaching is the essence of the education of the future, and these two aspects we have seen before, this encounter and this meeting in the cloud and the learning by doing, match very well. But you can say, but the systems we have been using, like the one here, webinar.ru, or Zoom, or Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams, they are really made for video conferences, for lectures, not for engaging active classes. So how do we do it? Well, during this last year or so, not only we professors have been active teaching online, the companies have been also active in thinking what is the right tool for providing active classes. And the class is not a conference. Video support for a class would not be the same as for a conference like we are having here. We're having a conference, basically. Classes should be something different. So what other elements support a class that do not exist in video conferences? I will mention three, maybe the first one longer, but I mentioned three examples, and maybe some later on some others, that include additional elements to really have an active class. I will mention with Engagely. Engagely is a company which is 9 months old. It has not even has a product that can be used. But it's very interesting that the concept of breakout groups that exists in Google Meet and Google Teams, in Microsoft Teams, etc., this idea of dividing the group into smaller groups and to doing something, which has been very complicated because you do a lot of clicks and then everybody goes there and here and you meet with other people. This idea is very good. I mean, the idea of students working in teams is very good, but the implementation was very complicated because now in conferences you don't have this. But they have identified it, and for instance, this is the class, and there is a group, a small group of students who is always together and who can talk to each other. Did you understand what the professor said? Can you explain it to me? While all at the same time are listening to the professor. And if someone wants to say something to the whole class, they can put up the hand and then everybody can hear them. So this combination of being in a small group with other people, you maybe are always with the same group of people, and at the same time being in class, like in the normal classroom where you sit together with your friends and maybe you're asking questions, so can you borrow me, etc. This idea has been translated online. No? So there's this concept of tables. In each table, there can be from 2 to 10 students, which there are many different ways of combining it. You can all be the same, or you can do it random if you want. This combines the intimacy of being together with others and talking to them without disturbing the rest, but while at the same time listening to them. But this is just an example, and there are many other things which are available in Engagely. For instance, you can see the presentation of the professor. Here you have your group, then you have the others. They have just raised the hand to say something. This is a professor, so you can see the presentation and even write on it and then store it with your annotations. So there are many other things. So you can take notes and store the slides with your notes, etc. Or the professor can share a document per table. So I will give each of you a chapter, and then you talk about it, and then you report, etc. Or see the engagement level, paying attention, etc. And also support for hybrid classes, where the students in class, through the mobile phone, can interact with those at home or online. So this combination of mixing up everything is possible. And also quizzes, which you know from many other devices, but in this case, the quizzes come from the normal slides. We have some QR codes in it, and therefore it's easier to produce. But I wanted to especially mention here, it opens the way to collaboration patterns, to active learning, using jigsaw, peer instruction, pyramids, which are models for active education. For instance, in jigsaw, you have the students, you combine them in some tables, and then you combine it differently, and you combine it in a way. So this is one of the, we'll not go into the details, but you put together the experts here in different topics, and then you recombine again, etc. So this is a very interesting collaboration form, which can be very nicely implemented with the idea of tables. Or peer instruction. For instance, you pose a question, and those who have not responded correctly, those who have responded correctly explain to their peers why this is correct. So this conversation, which makes the student active in class, is can be very well arranged with these tables. Or pyramid, you have a pyramidal structure of students. So just to mention, they are now coming up, and I'm sure that many others tools will come up that help in active learning. And let me mention just a few so that you see that this is not the only one. For instance, another one is Class for Zoom. Zoom has opened their software and allowed other companies to expand on it. And Class is one. It was the previous CEO of Blackboard who went to design to make a new company, and so they have a number of also similar facilities which improve what Zoom allows, particularly for education. Another one, this comes from China, which is called Class In. And then there are many others. I just, well, this is the one I mentioned before, by Libin, where you mix your face with your background, and you can show the slides, and together, with your slides, your background, and your face, you can combine it in interesting ways. Very recommendable. By the way, this is for payment, but if you're an education institution, you can ask for it for use freely during 1 year. So make your registration and ask for it as an education institution for free use during 1 year. Okay, and there are many other things. I mentioned here a few. One I like very much, Wonder. Wonder is a company from Berlin. You have a canvas where points are moving. These points represent different people. And if the people come together, for these people who are close enough, a video conference opens. I've used it also in my classes. No? So I have several groups. Now you go together, everybody looks at the other one, and then a video conference, or so many video conferences spontaneously open up. And then the professor can say, okay, now it's over, now I will speak. So this combination of allowing things in a much more easier way is coming up. Wonder is one. It was called Your Tribe before, now it's called Wonder. Gatherly, Gather Town, Remo, Circle, etc. are just a few names of the applications that allow for this video conferencing on demand as necessary. You can move from one place to another. In some of these applications, it's tables, another one is chairs, etc. Here it's points, etc. So these are ways of also allowing the spontaneous conversation among people. So this is the third part. So we have to unlearn the old way of instructing, because the blackboard invited to teach in an instructional way. And now we have ways and tools to have other, to use other pedagogies which are much more necessary, much more effective for teaching, in order for the teacher not just to instruct, but to facilitate learning. And the student is the one who has to be active in doing things and failing and learning again. So this is the third part for questions now.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And we've got a question which came from our participants. It came in Russian, but I will translate it into English. So the question is, are the students of your university ready to return to regular offline learning? Haven't they unlearned to learn in a natural offline environment? That is the question. How could you comment on that?
Yeah, I think we all, everybody. Maybe I'll respond to this in the conclusion. No, everybody has to learn and unlearn, not just the students, not just the faculty, the senior management at the university, the organizations. So we have to go through a process which takes time, and it takes a lot of training, etc. I see this as the way to go, but it will not happen immediately. I think this is a way. Let me just show the last slides, which exactly go into this section. So we have all faculty, education organization, even the edtech companies are learning, are unlearning, and are relearning on how to do things. We as faculty, as professors, we have to learn what is the new content. Maybe it's not so much instructionally oriented, maybe it has more activities oriented. So we have to identify the new content. We have to learn how to use the technology and unlearn how to use that, and to find the ways of the pedagogical methods that map with the new contents and with the new technology. And we have to be digitally competent. We have, for instance, this European Union Digital Competence Framework for educators, which gives some hints on what to look at. But it's not just the people, not just the faculty, the professors who have to learn. It's the organization. And there's also another framework by the European Union on digital competent education organizations, which are the different aspects which has to be rethought redefined, reorganized. What are the new structures that have to be put in place? What are the new procedures? No? So I think this is a complicated way, but I think it's a necessary way. No? And also the tech companies are changing. This is the increase in the United States of investment in edtech companies, but the majority of the investment in education technology is not from the United States. It comes 3/4 of the investment is from Asia. Countries like China, like India, Russia, etc., are making an investment which is enormous. New companies, Baidu, which is from India, and the others, these two are Chinese, etc. And there are many others. I don't want to be, there's so many, but there are millions and millions of investment of the new ways of teaching, hybrid, online, mixed, which is coming up. So I think we are just at the beginning of what will be possible, and we have to be alert, we have to observe, we have to see what is going on, because the whole panorama is changing. Let me finish by a quote by John Maynard Keynes, which goes back to the very beginning. The difficulty in this path lies not in the new ideas, but there will be lots of them, but in escaping from the old ones, because they ramify for those brought up, as most of us have been, into every corner of our minds. So we have all these old structures in our mind, and it's difficult to identify the new ways. Like the math teacher from my university 2 weeks ago. It's too small, it's not used. Okay, you're using it the old way. You have to relearn, and you have to rethink how you use the technology for teaching. Thank you very much. Spasibo, everyone.
Carlos, before you finish, just several minutes ago, one more question came.
Yes.
And it's very much related to what you've just said. It's a question from Olga Efimova, and I will quote, have you, probably the question is, if you know some research or some cases about psychologically friendly digital environment. So the question is we cannot just be carried by the fun of being using digital solutions and tools. We must think about teachers of maybe old mindset, for whom it will be hard to shift from their traditional blackboards and desks and textbooks to some absolutely new environment. And the question is, how psychologically friendly can that new environment be? Will not ruin the mindsets and the comfort of teachers who in many countries are the majority of teachers who work at schools. Can you answer?
I'm not a specialist in psychology, but I can tell you that the next project I have submitted at the National Research Council in Spain is to have learning analytics with a human touch. Human orientation, which with so much technology, we should not forget the humans, and we have to adapt the technology to the humans in many ways, psychological ways, in many different ways. And I think there's a trend right now, and there are some papers and projects right now, and we have submitted also one where this human element is introduced more in this crazy run towards technological elements, no? So we have to balance the two, the advances of technology, but not forget the human, which is the one driver and which should be also taken into account. Definitely.
All right, Carlos, one of our participants wrote, thank you for a wonderful webinar. It contains lots of useful information. And I think we both, we all think the same, that your webinar contained a lot of very useful insights, and we'll try to take the best of it and also learn how to unlearn, because we understand that modern world brings us a lot of information, and we are supposed to choose what is the best and the most essential, and probably get rid of the information and values that work as brakes on the way to new achievements. So thanks again. It was a wonderful presentation. We really enjoyed it, and I hope we'll be able to continue our conversations in the nearest future, because we think that it was a very insightful presentation. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Boris, for the invitation, and I hope we can meet soon again in person. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carlos. Thanks. Goodbye.